Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about T-tops. Nothing quite compares to a T-top G-body. Being able to look at the sky driving on a clear day, nothing really hits like that. But we can't talk about the good without talking about the bad. And the bad when it comes to T-tops is rust. If you're familiar with my DIY videos, then you've probably seen my G-body T-top rust repair video. One thing I didn't get to talk about in that video is how to decide if you need to replace that header panel. So I want to take the opportunity to go into that in this video. Also, there's a new product on the market since that video came out that's going to make every G-body owner's life easier when it comes to replacing these T-top header panels. Thanks to GBodyParts, I'm able to show you this T-top header panel setup. The first T-top header panel that I replaced required me to hand fab that lower metal channel. It took a while to do, but I was able to knock it out. Not everybody has the ability or the willingness to do it. So some will opt to spend $1,800 to $3,000 plus to get all of that rust out of the way and get that metal installed. But thanks to GBodyParts, Brian has made another investment in the G-body community and brought these products to market. So now you're going to get to see them in this video first. So if you like this type of content, smash the like button, let me know how I did in the comments, and subscribe for more. Now with that, let's take a closer look at this 442 and see how bad the rust is, and I can show you how to save another G-body. Now, I asked Brian to send me a couple of these because I'm not sure what's underneath this tape. I don't know how far down the rot goes, and I want to be prepared with everything we need. So we're going to do a quick inspection to see how bad everything is before we start to pull out the windshield, before we start to pull out the interior panels. I really want to get down to the nitty-gritty. So the history on this car is interesting, to say the least. It appears to be a one owner, but somewhere along the line, somebody had a vision for this car that shouldn't be touching a G-body. There's black vinyl everywhere. They spray bombed underneath the hood. They sprayed the carpets. There's carpet strips on the dashboard, electrical tape everywhere, you name it. This car has got it bad. But the good part is the fundamentals are there. The floorboard isn't rusty. The frame is straight and solid. Everything that looks rough is just cosmetic. And we've got a fix for all of that. So fast forward to now. It's time to take a look at this interior and this top seal, and I was a little bit puzzled to see duct tape covering up the seals. Was this from somebody trying to protect the area from where rust forms, or were they trying to hide some rust? On my 84 T-top car, they use foam all within the channels, and they were just going to Bondo over that. So naturally, I had to cut all of that stuff out. Just goes to show you, you never know what you're gonna find until you start tearing something apart. And I've been waiting to tear into this car for about a year, so it's really exciting to see what's hidden below. Okay, let's see what we got here. Here we got some rot underneath here. We got a little bit of rust down in here. Let's take a look on the other side. Oh man. Well, we got our answer. Look at that. Looking down in here, this metal is gone. So right now we know the top is pretty much bad news bears, but we still got to see what the underside of all of this looks like. So now I'm comfortable taking off the interior panels and taking a closer look inside. So inside the car, we have these three fasteners that go around the sun visor, a couple of screws here, and then the same thing on the other side. That'll allow us to get these three pieces off and inspect the bottom metal that's here. So taking a look down here, this metal doesn't look all that bad. We got clean metal, clean metal. And then over here, we got a couple of rusty spots. but nothing here to say that we need to replace this bottom piece. Now, you've probably seen all of this if you watch my other video, so I'm gonna move a little bit faster this time so we can get down to our point of repair and start to discuss the two options that we have when it comes to replacement parts. I say don't even try to save the clips that are underneath here. They're gonna pop out once you pop the windshield out anyway. And depending on who installs your glass, you can either replace them or just seal them up with urethane. The big thing you wanna protect is not bending the metal. And if you come in right in here, you'll see that tab right there. Just bend the tab out of the way and then you'll be able to lift up on the trim. So I'm going in with it, right? There's a clip right about here. I'm gonna go in until we feel that resistance. We're gonna pop that clip just a little bit, and then we'll pull up. Now this is one of the only G-bodies I've seen where this seal is actually preserved. I didn't know this seal existed because I've only dealt with rotten G-bodies before this, so that was nice to see. So here's how this works. You gotta lift up the arm a little bit, slide it out like that. Once you have enough slid out, just pop in here and lift up. Nice and easy. And if the mechanism falls apart, just take a look at this. You have like a lock washer that goes across both pins that just snaps into place, and then you have that slider right underneath it. This one is just pins. So as long as you take it out nice and easy, you shouldn't have any issues. Next up, we'll use our 1/4 inch or 7mm all the way across this panel to remove all these screws. All right, so getting that spine out of the way has opened us up to see everything that's going on in this front section. And we've got about 1.5 inch hole here, lots of rust everywhere. We got sections of it that has gone through. Now that we're at the base metal, we can strategize what repair would look like. Thanks to GBodyParts, we have 2 different options when it comes to how we fix this. First is the standard header panel, what you're used to, just a top piece. The now made bottom piece, and in case you want all of it as one assembly, the top and bottom piece put together. We're gonna show how all of this gets installed on the car. Let's zoom out into the garage. If you go with the integrated piece that combines the upper and lower, all you have to do is separate this area of the A-pillar and this area of the center section, cut out everything else, and put that new piece right in place. If you want to go with the standard option, you can start to grind out all of the spot welds all across here and on this side. Remove the top piece, and then cut out the bottom piece, taking a look at this area that's seamed along here and how it meets up to the bottom of the A-pillar as well. There's no right or wrong way. It's basically how comfortable are you with grinding away spot welds and welding the metal back up, and how much of the original sheet metal you want to keep on the car. To get comfortable with where we're going to have to make our cut on this A-pillar surface here, we might as well remove this trim piece, and it starts off with the Phillips heads that are inside of this groove. And this was important because even though we're not cutting away our A-pillar, we're keeping all of this metal that's here. We still have to splice this top piece to get our new replacement header panel in place. It's my goal to make one video in this entire series that you can refer to regardless of what piece you order from GBodyParts. Let's take a look at what you have to do to get to good known metal depending on your situation. Let's say you want to replace this entire top section. Take a look at these peach and these green colored dots. You're going to grind away at all of the dots that you see across here. All these dots are spot welds between these layers of metal. The important part to keep in mind is you want to get down to the metal that you're going to keep and not grind through it. So you want to make sure that this A-pillar bracket, the bottom piece of metal here, stays in place and you don't grind into that. So take care of all of those spot welds across the front and then all of these across the windshield. And when you get down to your A-pillar sections, use a chisel to separate this top layer of metal from the rest of the A-pillar. Cut across your A-pillar here and then cut right back up in here. That way this top piece will separate and you'll be left with the A-pillar bracket and your lower section. Situation B, let's say you want to replace that top section and the lower section as separate pieces. Then you grind out all of the peach and the green spot welds across both sides. You're going to make your cut same as before. But when you get down here, take a look at this peach line that goes here and then all the way across and back up. We need to retain that metal. So we're going to cut along that. And then once you get away from that, and then you remove all the metal that you're trying to, you'll see spot welds on the inside of here. You'll grind those, but from inside the channel. That way you keep this metal all as one piece. When you come over here, you're going to break that weld between this bottom section and the A-pillar bracket. Now in our third scenario, let's say you opted for the one-piece design that incorporates the top and bottom as a clamshell. You can go about it in the way that I just outlined in step 2. Or if you're looking for a really speedy way to do things, you can get out your cutoff wheel and make these cuts. You take your cutoff wheel and you chop right here and right here. And then just with that and doing the same thing on the other side over there, you eliminate 50% of the amount of spot welds that you have to grind out. We're already replacing this metal and we're replacing the metal on the underside. So no need to worry about anything there. After that, you can take care of the spot welds on the sides that you're supposed to, get rid of the excess metal that are there, and then you can fit in your clamshell piece. If you have any additional questions, just feel free to leave a note in the comments for me. Now, here's a tip nobody will tell you. First off, always wear your PPE. Next up, if you look real close, you'll actually see the outline of where the metal is breaking between the layers. That lets you know you're right where you need to be and the chisel can take it the rest of the way. Just that easy. All right, there we go. So with that first layer out of the way, we're making great progress. Let's show you what the second step looks like. All of the green spots are areas that we need to use our belt sander on. There's a couple rivets around here, one on each side, and then we're able to separate this A-pillar from the bottom piece. Several more over here in green. But when we get to yellow, we're gonna need to pull out our drill bit. Because we want to retain this top layer of metal, and when it comes time to weld in our new piece, we want to be able to have access to the bottom piece of this. And we're going to need to grind that clean, and that way when we fit it up, we'll have holes here that we can just weld right back up. So this is the only area that we'll need to drill holes on. Replicating on the other side with our belt sander, those 5 areas in green, and then the other A-pillar section looks like how it does here. As we suspected, they did use a bit of foam in here, so we'll clean that out as best as we can. But we're getting to a point where we have a really good repair. And now that we're looking underneath the car, there's a couple areas that you need to pay attention to. Right along here, and all the way on the other side, there's seam sealer in here that kind of bonds the 2 pieces together. So once you drill out the rivets and belt sand the rivets on the top side, you're going to need to separate all of this from the metal that we're removing. Additionally, there's a weld right here along the A-pillar bracket that you'll need to break as well. My best suggestion is to use a cutoff wheel there. Just scratch the surface until it breaks. Now everything you see here on this front piece is just surface rust, so it's easy to just wire wheel this and then start to put everything back together after you coat it. But what would the fun be in that episode? I want to show you how this product works, so we're going to take it one step deeper. Now, before we start taking out this center section, we need to address this rusty metal right here. This metal is actually a part of the top piece that was here. You have to come underneath here, and then there's 2 spots here that you need to drill out. Once you do that, you'll be able to remove this metal out of the way. You want to do it now because you still have the additional support that's given by this, and you don't want to be hammering and wailing away to remove this metal when your A-pillar is just free to move around. So we got pretty much the entire section out, but there's still something holding it on in the middle section. If you look right here, there's a spot weld here and one right here underneath this section. So it just goes to show you how deep you really have to go to be able to get to it. I found additional spot welds that I did not even see the first time. There was a couple, one right here that I didn't see. And now these, it's just one thing after another, but we're almost there. So success. We finally got all the metal out of the way. Let me show you what we're dealing with. Gotten everything relatively clean. I got to go back over underneath here just a little bit, but it'll be okay for now. And let me show you what it'll take to start to bring in your new metal. The reason why I grind this from the way that I did was so that I can lift it up like this, because you need to slide in the additional metal around this, and we need to be able to lift up these ears, bend this forward, and then create enough gap in between here and in between here so we can slide everything together. If you're going to use this one-piece design, you're going to need to do something about these 2 flanges right here. From factory, these pieces of metal are supposed to slip in between these 2 pieces right in here. But since this is spot welded together on each side, you're either going to have to break the spot weld, make a gap, and then insert this metal into here, or you're going to have to cut the metal back some. And with it on there, it fits really nicely. Take a look at those body lines. I can sandwich this closer and get everything to cinch really nicely. Same thing on the other side, looks really great. And when you come up here, all of the lines match up really nicely, and I'll be able to zap these in no problem. But here, up here, is where we need to drill out one spot weld right here and lift this piece up, because there's a piece of metal underneath here that we need to weld up, and you can't have good access to it unless this is bent further back. When you come down here, I'll just drill a few holes into this, and then I'll be able to weld this into our new piece, and should be good there. All right, so now I'm ready to start to put everything back together, and I've just opened this all the way up so you can see everything down in here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray all the way down in there and all of the areas that I'm not going to directly weld with some rust reformer, just to make sure things stay really nice and neat. And I'm gonna spray weld through primer on the areas that I plan to weld through. I've drilled out holes here so that when I put in this piece, I can fit it and then I can zap right where those holes are. And that way I can melt these two pieces of metal together. When we get over here, that's where it's going to be interesting, because this metal piece goes in between these two layers. So that's why I'd have to drill a hole in between these. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a weld plate right along here, just a plate of metal to cover it up. So that way when I come through with my welder, I can sandwich all 4 pieces of metal and get a really strong connection. Now, in our final steps, we'll need to take care of paint and bodywork as well. Remember, you did cut right across this A-pillar, so some work needs to be done. There's a few different options you can do when it comes to repairing this, though. Did you notice when I was cutting this, you didn't see sparks? Not a lot of sparks. It's because this area is filled in with lead. It's a natural transition point between the A-pillar and this top header piece. And to do it in a purist way, you would need to melt lead back into here, shape it up, and then continue on bodywork there. You can also melt the lead that's in this area, weld it up, and then continue on bodywork as well. Or you can go with a fiberglass reinforced filler up in here so you can kind of get the shape recreated and go along from there. At this point, it's welded in a dozen areas, so it's super strong. We're not going for strength here. We're really just trying to build it back up and do it in a way that's not going to react on you later on, and it's not going to crack on you, because, you know, there's a lot of flex in this area, even when you do it right. But after that, we're just ready for paint to go over our welds, and then we can continue with some body work. Now, I have to do the same type of work on my 87 Turbo T that's outside. So once I get started on that body work, I'll do it off camera, and if there are any updates, I'll post about it there so you all can stay in the loop. As far as price and availability goes, this is not quite yet available for sale at the time of this taping. Reach out to Brian at GBodyParts. Keep an eye out on my website. You may see it up on there for sale soon. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in the next one.